Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of his Dark Materials, The Demon Cages. And I really didn't like this one. This is gonna be the last review I do for this, not because it's like horrendous and unwatchable. It's just not really doesn't really suck me in or anything, because this one was just really kind of weird on how it dealt with Lyra and Roger's situation in Bolvangar and kind of how everything shook out, because it almost did this halfway thing of mainly focusing on Bolvangar and then doing weird little spots to other places, and it just was really kind of strange of how certain things lined up. So let's get certain other things out of the way first. We did get a check-in with Will, and evidently he is watching a video of his dad and like learning more information on him, like tucks his mom in, and they're still being looked at by Boreal's agents, and that's about it. One of the agent dudes is like, why don't we go in there and get whatever in there? He's like, just waiting. Okay. Alright. The bulk of the episode deals with Lyra and Roger in Bolvangar. She pretty much gets brought in, eats her kind of food, sees that Roger's there, but decides to kind of play it cool with her alias and all that, and then we see that one of the kids is taken away and done with the process of removing their demon. We also get into some of the scientists doing their things and talking about how their research is going to remove the tyranny of sin. It's like, okay, that's interesting. And while that's going on, Lyra is attempting to set up an escape plan. However, we are never privy to that escape plan. Now, I understand that a child kind of views things differently than an adult. But there's a basic logic to certain things of, okay, how are you going to escape? You're going to need food, provisions, all that kind of stuff. We don't really see a planning phase. She is literally just going by the seat of her pants, doing just like the weirdest of shit that only really works because of kind of like the plot demands it and contrivance reasons of like, oh, okay, alright. Now granted, certain things that occur could be adequately explained, but it's like, okay. That needed a little bit more explanation. Like when she pretty much talks to Roger and be like, listen, they're going to be like taking our demons and all that kind of stuff. We need to do this shit. Starts a snowball fight, and her and Roger somehow are able to escape out and find the places where they're keeping the separated demons from the people. It's like, okay, that's not good. And they're pretty much trying to figure out what to do from here. They find the rest of the kids, and nobody knows that they're missing. I could take it if it was better done. Otherwise, it's just like, okay, here's starts where it gets to kind of like add up to me. Like, all right, spread the word around. We're going to kind of get some things going on with this. We get information that Mrs. Coulter is going to visit the facility. Lyra understands that this is going to be happening. She is hidden by the girls, and she's like, listen, we got to get out of here because they're taking out our demons and all that shit, and continuing on. We have a tense moment where she pretty much hides from Mrs. Coulter and her monkey demon. We get kind of like a jump scare. It's like, alright, fine, whatever. But she gets pretty much picked out to have her demon taken from her. She's pretty much getting thrown into the process, but Mrs. Coulter is able to stop the process before it goes through. Then we get an interesting conversation between Mrs. Coulter and Lyra as she is apologizing for hurting her and everything, and they are trying to get this process to remove sin and everything. And I get that. It just, this isn't really lining up with how it felt kind of tighter in the books to me. Granted, I haven't read it in a while, but it just feels like, okay, alright. But we do get an emotional performance by Mrs. Coulter. She's like crying and everything. She's like, "Listen, I didn't want to hurt you." I'm trying to get more information about learning about her being her mother. Wants the alethiometer and all that, and she uses the spy bug thing to escape and lock Mrs. Coulter in the room. Now, granted, this was an interesting kind of juxtaposition as Lyra is screaming in kind of primal rage, as well as Mrs. Coulter, showing that they are just too much alike to really coexist, and that they're just like bashing together. Now, granted, more communication would have worked better, but Lyra is now saved, and she tries to go and kind of save her friends. When fortuitously enough, the Egyptians are able to attack Bolvangar with pretty much little to no buildup. We get a scene where they're like crossing a ravine, and then suddenly out of fuck ton nowhere, they just pop up on the base and pretty much defeat everybody. It is the strangest kind of transition and editing thing, because it is just so fortuitous for Lyra to have done all these events at once. My main quibble with it is how it all unfolds. I don't mind if suddenly the Egyptians come out of nowhere and do these things, but since the last time we saw them, they were trying to get over a ravine. Well, not even a ravine, a crack on the side of a cliff that looked pretty damn nasty, and then suddenly they popped up there. It's like, what the hell? And they're fighting the forces, and we get very claustrophobic action scenes, and they're just here and there. Now, granted, I understand that we're following it from Lyra's perspective as a child, and that we wouldn't get the whole purview of the battlefield, but it's like, okay, everything's kind of stuck, and you're doing these things showing the demons disappearing and everything, and it's like, alright. It's just like so quick and everything. I'm like, did you kind of want to focus on this? We do get a cool ass action scene where Seraphina comes in and just like kills all these people. It's like, holy shit. The main things that I liked in this were the philosophical portions of like ending the tyranny of sin, and how Mrs. Coulter's trying to make a better world, needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few kind of shit. I'm like, yeah, you're making people more controllable. We even see this with the sisters and them being adults, and Lyra talking to the one, being like, what about your demon? And Cotter pretty much into that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, they're almost just robots and they can barely do anything. Same with the kids. It's like, shit. So, the Egyptians are able to take control of Bolvangar and get the kids out. Mrs. Coulter is watching as well, because she was able to escape the room, but kind of like books it. And we see that they're taking the kids off. We see that Ma Costa breaks the scientist dude's neck. We got that. See, the thing is, it's they try and pass it off as this big kind of moment where she's like getting her revenge and everything, but they have done so little work with their character outside of like going for Billy, and also kind of being the one that was to help nurse Lyra, that it just falls kind of flat. You kind of took too long and rushed it at the same time. That's the kind of feeling I've gotten with this. Is like, okay, we're towards the end of this season, and now she kind of gets her moment, but the moment just falls flat. It's really weird. But they win, victory. We see Yorick doing his thing. We see Lee Scoresby doing his thing. And everything kind of like checks out, and they're deciding to go and get Lord Asriel. So, in another odd-ass thing, Lee Scoresby, Lyra, Roger, and Yorick get into the balloon and fly off. Yes, the armored bear is in the balloon. Granted, if it's explained better, I'm like, that's a big fucking bear in a balloon. Okay. So they trundle off to kind of do their thing. Seraphina pops up to talk to Lee as Lyra and Roger are asleep, and pretty much says that the world's in his hands to protect Lyra, and he's like, we see him, granted, he's only been more of a recent kind of addition, and mainly we've seen that he puts on the airs of being money focused, but he will help his friends and those that are in need of him. And he's trying to be like, hey, that sounds like a different contract. It's like, the world's in your hands with this girl. Take care of her. He's like, oh, shit, fine. You made me fall in love with the kid. I'll take care of her and all that. And then we end with the sequence of the cliff gas fighting, and it is just so strange because we don't get a clear idea of what they are, and they're just kind of attacking the balloon, and Lyra gets thrown out the side and falls, and that's it. You build up this whole thing to this conflict of Bolvangar, and it just didn't seem right to me. It just didn't seem as well executed or anything that really should have occurred. Lyra's whole plan for escape was... we didn't really get that plan. We didn't see her kind of like trying to figure out routes or anything, or trying to do anything. She was like, alright, fine. She blew up the machine that was supposed to take your demon away from you, and then everything just kind of like fell together. I'm like, oh, okay. It just felt off to me. It didn't work right for me, and her character just... once Roger was kind of in the area, and then also the kind of trying to escape, it just... we've been shown that she's just almost a one-track mind, and that's not an interesting character to observe. It's like, okay, this, we don't see her thought processes, we don't hear her kind of talking with Pan and talking through all this kind of stuff to try and figure out other ways to get out of here. It's just like, okay, she's going to do this thing and do this thing. Now granted, one of my main quibbles of talking about shows is showing and not telling. But there becomes an aspect of, if we don't have a connection with what the character is doing and don't have adequate enough explanation, I'm just like, why do I care? Okay, just do your thing. It doesn't matter, because it's either going to work or it's not going to work. I don't know. Everything just seemed to work out too perfectly to get her out through to where the plot needed her to be. That's kind of how it felt to me. And I don't really blame it on the actress, I just really blame it on the content of what's kind of going on. It's like, alright, cool. When they get the content of like her trying to pretty much stonewall her mother to make sure that she gets out of there, tactically using Mother and shouting that to her to get her out of the machine, and then pretty much making her believe that she had reconciled with her mother, that worked out better than what was going on. So, even though I'm done with the show, I hope it gets better and everything. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.